Just to recap very quickly, just some of the things that I was just going over is the changes that are coming with compensation no longer being offered through MLS. Triad MLS goes into effect on August 1st. Triangle MLS goes into effect on August the 6th. So the second part that I was getting into is that fortunately, a lot of these changes that are happening because of the NAR settlement is that they don't affect us. There are states that are are non-buyer agency. We are a buyer agency state. We have been for 20 years. And so our buyer agency agreements are already in place. And so not a lot of, there were some minor modifications to that, to those forms, both the listing agreement and also the buyer agency agreement that directly impacted from the direct impact from compensation. And Jason's going to have some slides with forms and all that fun stuff. And then we are also going to, so then we're going to have a participation both from Zoom and also within the room of conversations. What does the conversation look like? How is the conversation changing so that you guys are prepared to have those conversations if you're not already? There's some instances where, the sellers, some sellers and some buyers hear all this stuff on this fabulous thing called the media. And so then they start asking us questions like, what's going on with this? What is this about? That sort of thing. So having some conversations around it and really from, I'm sure everybody has their own opinion. We know what those are. It hasn't really changed. Nothing has really changed. It's just the conversation that we are having. Hasn't the buyer always paid the commission? Yeah. The buyer. The buyer. Yeah. Yes. I mean, because when we when we look at it on paper, it comes from the seller's proceeds. But when we're pricing a house and we're talking to the seller, aren't we adding that fee in to our pricing? So essentially the buyer is paying it anyway. They always have. It just on paper looked like the seller was paying it. So again, it's just about having the conversation. And the biggest thing too, another big thing is that we need to be having better conversations with our sellers on how they want to offer compensation to a buyer agent if they want to offer compensation to a buyer agent. I think especially over the last couple of years, we've all gotten complacent because it was, we didn't really have to be real estate agents. We just filled out some paperwork and put it on MLS. Sometimes we didn't even have time to get our sign in the yard. And we had how many multiple offers going on. And so again, this is just a refresh of things that we should have been doing all along as real estate agents. Those of us that have been in the business for a long time, it's not new to us, but we have to flex that muscle. Again, sorry, I thought I went away there for a second. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to blow on you. Right. So we have to flex that muscle again on what do our conversations sound like? And are we fully explaining the listing agreement to the seller? Are we fully explaining the buyer agency agreement to the buyer and having the conversation over compensation? That's the biggest thing that has probably changed is that we haven't really had to do that much I know that Joe Don has always done a very good job of having that conversation, and therefore it has gotten him paid the amount that he said, this is what my fee is to the buyer. And so thank you for being here, Joe. Hopefully you can enlighten us all on your processes. And I thank you for being here for sharing. So again, it is not just, I'm gonna send this to you via DocuSign and then click, 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 click. Do you really think they read it? No, they didn't read it at all. So are we having that conversation, going through the paperwork, even if it's not in person? We have this great thing called Zoom now that was invented during COVID. Not really, but the stock skyrocketed during COVID, that there are alternative ways to have those conversations. Google Meet. Yeah, I am a huge proponent of Google Meet. Those of you that do not use it or do not know what it is, it's fantastic. It's free. It's in your Google account. When you create an appointment, it automatically creates a Google Meet link. There's no time limit. So it's a great tool. Yeah, Jason, also FaceTime. A lot of different ways that we can have that conversation.
Yep.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, we had a small meltdown before I got here. Hey, so quiz time is really, it's just about time to spend with you all. Oh, share screen for them.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you. Why is that not clicking? Screen 2, that one, but it's not clicking.
Your batteries maybe go down. Let me try.
It should be a charger. You might have to click for me, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Hey, so just like Karen said, there's some key dates coming up, and I just unplugged it, so it should have been fine. Weird. August 1st is the first one, and that's the triad rules. Each MLS has the capability and permission from whomever to start their own rules. So depending on where you're a member of, you may have different rules, which we do have. Just like you got triad, some things are 7 days, some things are 90 days, some days are 6 months. Like it depends. So sometimes you ask me a question, I'll have to go look because I'm like, wait, it's one in one MLS and it's another in the other. So August 17th is the agreement for the settlement date. So that's the date across the country everyone has to have these agreements implemented. The second date, the thing about August 17th, however, that has not been finalized. So the judge, we're like in the process. If you don't know, this lawsuit's in its third year. And we're getting near the end of it. We're not there yet. So actually, November 26th is the date that it's supposed to be finalized. So we could see changes between August 17th to what they've preliminary agreed to and November 26th. So just know this is not in stone. This is the current where we are. Triad met and they decided that they're going to implement their changes on the 1st. So you received an email to that from Triad if you're a Triad member. I posted it on the Facebook group yesterday when I saw it, and we'll send it directly to you as well from the office. So the first is the triad dates that they're implementing. There are 4 major rules they're doing there. The next one is Triangle. Triangle decided on the 6th. So theirs is a week away from the other one. So if you'll hit the next one. So some of the big changes is, what are the major changes? What have you heard? And this is open dialogue. Is everything changing? Is agency changing? Are fees changing? Are showings changing? Y'all tell me what you heard. Everything. It is. Yeah, showings are going to change. The office fees have not changed, right? The fees from the office are the same. We didn't change those. Yeah, there's some form changes. I mean, I could have made that list probably all 26 letters of the alphabet on that question, and that's why I threw in everything because there are some changes. All right, raise your hand. If you've been in real estate longer than a year, raise your hand. All right, longer than 3, 5, 7, 10. All right, 25, 20. Oh, we got some 25ers. Hey, all of you with your hands raised, has anything changed in real estate once you started 25 years ago? Yeah.
The offer to purchase page and a half.
Yep.
And that was the only form.
It was on toilet paper, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I've heard stories of like triplicates. You remember like the paper we would put inside and write it so it would duplicate? Yeah, so you just ripped it off and hand them a copy, right, out of their seat book. So this too, y'all, will change. It's a change. Are you alive today from all the changes you started in 19? Yes. Did you adapt? Yes. Are we still selling real estate? Yes. Will real estate still be sold? Yes. Do they need a professional to help them through that hard process? Most of them, right? If they don't, is it smooth sailing, right? Often it's not. There's a fee for that. So that's why there are some changes. If you'll hit the next one, and we're all okay. Like, it's not the same that I started in 15 either. So, hey, so the answer is yes. We are always changing. No, we change forms every single year, and y'all don't have a meltdown, right? I mean, it's a lot on us to teach and get it out, and then we, in compliance, send it back to you, and you're like, when did this change? And I'm like, the class I taught 2 weeks ago that you weren't at. So, or the copy online that you could have watched. So the agency is one of the first changes, and that, just like Karen said, that's the conversation you have. That's when they agree to hire you. That's when you have a consultation. Remember what those were? Those of you that knew, someone would contact you and say, I want to see 123 Main Street. And you say, oh my gosh, I'd love to assist you with that. Why don't you stop by the office or meet me at Starbucks and let me go through how this process works? Answer any of your questions or concerns. And I also want to find out more about you and your search to make sure that I'm the best agent for you and that we're a great fit to work together. How does that sound? You do some of those tie downs in the conversation to get them to meet you. So one, do they understand the process? Has it changed since the last time they bought or sold? Probably, right? So we have to get back to some of those consultation appointments and being the professionals that we are. There's a reason you went through all this school. There's a reason you were licensed from the state, that you passed the test, that they believe that you could do this. You are in charge of the general public's lack of knowledge. That's how it works. So it starts with agency. And what is an agency? How long the agreement is, right? What else? What are we looking for? Is it residential? Is it land? Is it on the coast? Is it in the mountains? Is it on Whitsett, Main Street? I mean, you
Taking
don't
your
know.
keys.
It's in the agency, right? That's where you fill that out.
And I put
What
your
else is
clothes
in
in the
there?
dryer, so they're done.
The dryer, get that out of the dryer. They're done. How much my services cost, right? How much my services cost. Great. The duties of the agency, of what we provide in that agreement, why we get paid for these are the things we will do in your home search, and this is the fee we charge. Is that blank pre-filled? No. I said that to yesterday, and I just saw Judy. Judy called me yesterday. She's like, I watched the team meeting back, and you said something about, and thank you, Judy. I appreciate you calling and asking, because it means the world to me that you, one, watched after the meeting, and two, you listened and wanted to find out more. You should not show up to an appointment with the blanks filled out, other than maybe your name at the bottom in Keller Williams Central, because you don't know how long they're going to agree to hire you. The blanks are all negotiable. That's why they're blank. So You may say my fee is this, and they're like, I'm not paying you. I'm not gonna do that. So if you show up with a pre-filled form, what do you do then? Strike it out and everybody initial it? I will tell you, part of the lawsuit was that they showed up with a pre-filled form and the folks that sued said, I didn't know I had an option. It was already filled in. They showed up with that number there and I thought I had to do it. So that's why it's blank. There's a reason it's blank. Because that's a part of your conversation in the consultation to share compensation and what goes around that number you put in. And again, the new forms are very strict and says it has to be a number. I taught you maybe 9 months ago to say or as stated in the MLS. Don't do that anymore because why? It's no longer stated in the MLS. So you wouldn't put that in there because it's not stated in the MLS.
You can't say that we're working peanuts.
Yep. No more. No alphanumerics. Not like your passwords with alphanumeric and a symbol and a something else. It has to be a number. Now, you can say the office price is land 10, residential 5, new construction residential 6, new construction 5, right?
Under 673.
Say a minimum. Because if you state a specific number, that's a fixed rate.
That's our office stated rate. And you all can vary within 1 percentage point up or down, either way without approval. We're fine with that. And if you do, that's great. That's our standard as an office. We charge that price. Okay. Later on, it's going to ask you, do I share with the other side? There's 3 choices there in those boxes. We do with compensating brokers or within our own brokerage. And we have to disclose, if you see a Keller Williams house and you're working with a Keller Williams agent, one, both parties had to have agreed to dual agency, right? Because you can't, that's one of the things we see. I go back into contract and compliance and I'm like, wait a second, this is a dual agent. And I go back to the agency form and they didn't approve dual agency. It's not the end of the world. We just need to go back and update that form in case we were ever sued within 3 years that they understood that was a dual agency type that we talked about. First box. Yep. First box on buying is not 1065. It's 532.5, right? On the buying side, buyer agency, we charge half of those. So it's 532.5. Now you can vary within 1 percentage point up or down either way. That's perfectly fine. So that office fee has not changed, what you see and see. You can vary that. It's perfectly fine. We just have to know it. The reason, like someone contacted me yesterday about a reduction for a specific reason, it's perfectly fine. When you enter your opportunity and you type in the commission amount or compensation amount, that feeds over to the office financials. So we're looking as an office, it takes a lot to the power, lights, phone, insurance, salaries, parking lot, maintenance, rent, all those things that you would pay as a storefront if you had your own firm. Or we use those numbers from your opportunities to feed into the financials of the market center. So if it's something less than we're expecting, we just need to know that for forecasting. That's what that's about. So the biggest change, and I think in North Carolina, what was the rule before August 17th to seeing a home? Yeah, you didn't have to have an agreement. You didn't have to have agency. You just had to show up and book an appointment, right? So part of the agreement is that before you show a house, like cross the threshold with you as an agent, open the door, you have to have an agency agreement or an agreement in place before you do that. An agreement in place is what it says. Now, there's a company out there that rhymes with Willow that put out a form that is not legal in North Carolina. So don't use that Willow form. That's not a good form. There are 2, hit the next one, please.
Yes, Dreama is asking, can you review top of page 5 again for dual agency?
Yes, I will. Yes. So dual agency, the first line, it's got two in listing agreement or in the agency agreement, the buyer agency agreement. It's got initials for dual agency, right? That's where they're saying, I'm okay with dual agency. They initial there. If that means they get to see a Keller Williams house if one comes up that our office has. The next two boxes are a checkbox that say, I do agree that my agent can be a dual agent, meaning I want to see my own agent's property. I'm okay with that. Or I do not agree with my agent doing that. Checkbox. If they do, then that's the end of that question. They're dual KW. Yes, they agree. That's all of it. That's the end. If they do not, then they have to initial the next box because it explains a designated agency in the office, meaning it's a dual office, a dual agent. I'm okay with that, but I don't want my own agent. But I'm okay with two agents within Keller Williams being separated, if you will, under the same umbrella. They can. It's ambiguous. It can. I mean, I'm just telling you that that is, to me, my understanding, like a state instructor, that, is that correct? I mean, designated, because we offer it within the office, they have to initial off that they understand what designated is.
On the WREA.
Yeah,
check off every option that you're currently offering.
Yeah.
WREA is just a disclosure. But
Yeah.
no firm will allow you to work in when you show up with the
Yeah, so WWREA, what she's saying is every box should be checked on that one, because
You want me to have the
with
power?
unrepresented, if it's that transaction, it's okay. You don't have to
Every-
check that one because it's not
So
often.
if
Um,
our firm allows you to work in every capacity,
Yep.
then you check off every single box every single time.
Yep,
The form has nothing to do with how you will work with that specific family, person, entity at all. It's just saying these are agency options that are allowed in North Carolina when working with a broker as a buyer or a seller.
yep. Yeah, it's an
that's for the
explanation of
WWREA.
that. What, you check all the boxes. If the next one is when you actually hire someone, is when they decide, and that's what we're talking about. Initialing the dual,
And then-
yes or no, I'm okay. And then initialing if I'm okay with Des.
Yes. In order for you.
Yeah, we'll pull you one up as an example so you see it.
In order for you to allow designated, you must first allow dual.
Yep,
If they do not want, if you're a seller, if you don't want everyone to be able to see your property, then you do not select dual.
Yep.
The best option is for everyone to see the property, so allow dual agency. And then the next one says, can your agent work both sides? Yes or no? That has nothing to do with whether you want to be designated or not.
and the big thing about both sides, I'll just throw in there while we're on it. Both parties have to understand that you're no longer advising either party. You're sharing the paperwork back and
You are
forth.
just a
You're a
referee.
go-between, not information, not, what do you think I should offer? I can't tell you that. Like I have to, both parties have to agree, so.
Oh,
And
And then the next option is, do you want me to be designated? And designated is when you are able to be a coach, but you may not be designated if you know any information, any personal confidential information about the other party, which you wouldn't know that until you get to the specific situation.
the offer. So. We can bring one up so and screenshot it for you. So, hey, the big deal is agreement for the showing. North Carolina has two forms of agency, and we don't hardly ever, and you all seem to be shocked when I brought it up during forms. There is a non-exclusive buyer agency. It's only 5 pages instead of whatever the buyer agency one is, like 11, I think. They have to, that is perfectly fine for them to fill that out for you to show them the home, the 5-pager. Non-exclusive. I don't know how to do that. I'm horrible with numbers.
Us brokers in charge, we do names.
Yeah, non-exclusive buyer agency agreement. Basically, it just explains a portion of exclusive buyer agent. That means buyer Karen signs a non-exclusive with Jason. I show her 123 Main Street. I know she's not embedded to me to work with her exclusively. She can sign a non-exclusive with Beth and see 128 Elm Street. I know she's not committed to me. She's dating. We're not married. She goes with Beth to Elm Street. That's perfectly fine. She signs a non-exclusive with Tammy and sees Spruce Street.
But you have to put that address.
It can be for a period of time or an area all the way down to a specific address. It just means we are not married to each other and you're not seeing anybody else.
So we don't need to ask the question anymore, are you working with any other agent?
Yes,
Well, then, well, that gives you a free pass to work with other agents.
it does. If they sign non-exclusive. What happens if they, usually it's the, hey, I'm not signing with you. I'm not going to. But I do want to see 123 Main Street. What the non-exclusive says, hey, I'll show you 123 Main Street. If you decide that's the house, I'm your agent for it.
And so if you're gonna sign, exclusive, we do that one that we've always.
The one you've already done, yeah.
But you still have to ask them if they.
Working with it.
Yeah.
Because if they've already, you're not gonna show them.
You'll have to say, well, did you sign a non-exclusive?
Correct. Yes. Are you married or are you dating? It's the best way to describe it. So hey, here's the deal, gang. It's an agreement for this particular property that I'm showing you for you to get in. And that's not a Jason rule, that ain't a KW rule. That is a NAR lawsuit with the Department of Justice rule that has now been implemented or will be implemented.
What if they sign that? Main Street?
Mhm.
And they don't tell me, they tell me they do not have an exclusive with Karen. So what would happen if I got them under contract? Or excuse me, what would happen if they went under contract on the home that I showed the, wait a minute. What would happen if,
I think the paperwork
What
takes
if
care
they-
of anything you're asking me.
well, but what if they tried having their exclusive agent making home on the house that I showed?
So part of what you fill out in the non-exclusive is the address that I showed you and that I'm owed compensation for this amount within blank days, blah, 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 blah. That agent's out. Yes, it's out.
Is there a time period on the non-exclusive?
There is, whatever, it's blank, so you can put it in there. You can. You can put it in a month. You can. So the Consumer Protection Bureau, there's a couple of things in the blanks that they are now weighing in finally. You know, the little blank about the number of days, like if I show you a property and within blank days, you make an offer, blah, 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 blah. They say that can be should be no longer than 60 days. So I've seen 90 days, I've seen 365, I've seen it blank because y'all don't fill it out. I've seen a month, I've seen 15, I've seen everything. The Consumer Protection Bureau has said it should be no longer than 60 days. The other thing they say is your agreements, when you agree to something, it has to have a start and a stop. And they say it should not be longer than 3 months. You can wait, that's what they say. Now, that's what they recommend. That is, they is the Consumer Protection Bureau for the public. No, it's, you know, all these government agents work together. So the DOJ has been eerily quiet. They've not completely weighed in on everything yet. So this is not final. Now that the DOJ is watching, they are also looking at, now the Consumer Protection Bureau is looking like, wait, are we protecting the consumers out there in this industry? They should have, they protect the consumer is their point. Their point is it shouldn't be longer than 60 days and it should have a stop date. Their recommend is 3 months. Can you extend it? Of course. Absolutely not a problem.
Tammy, just
So-
to follow up on your question. So on the buyer agency agreement now, whether it's exclusive or non-exclusive, in very bold print, it says you have not signed an agency agreement with another agent.
It does. There's like a whole paragraph of like 3 or 4 questions now that says, have you signed anything with anyone else? Are you under a referral company? Are you, like, there's all these questions now up front. So when they sign that, it negates what the other one is. So,
Well,
often.
buyers are liars, but that's
yeah,
never gonna
that's
change.
often. What I'm concerned with is the transaction that you are working with.
Well, my question is, so our only options are gonna be these two, the exclusive or non-exclusive.
At this
See,
point,
they don't
yes.
Even sign a working with real estate agents when I show them the first house, because they think they're signing something.
Well,
I
and
mean,
so,
you have that conversation
Yes.
and people are just.
well, and
5
technically, this
pages,
is not
they'll be like,
this ain't a KW. It should be an EXP, Caldwell, 123 Main Street Realty Company. Like, this is the rule for everyone. This is not something we're just starting up. So across the country, this is the rule to see a house.
I think. the
Some
biggest-
form of agreement has to be in place.
The biggest problem is the public has no clue this is coming. Absolutely none.
Yeah, we're the experts. They're not. Hey, if I'll throw a loop at you. If I'm a listing agent and you call to see my listing, do I have to have an agency agreement with you?
No.
No. I'm representing the seller. Only thing I have to have WWREA to say, I don't work for you. I work for the seller. I will show you this house. They don't have to have an agreement.
Here's the thing.
No.
You get a lot of people out there and I mean. I'm
You
one
have
of
to
it.
present it and all you
Present
do
it and
is,
explain it.
yep, right.
And it says refuse to sign.
Right on the WWREA,
Refuse to sign.
refuse to sign.
Yep.
But if you're.
Yeah.
Jason,
I love y'all. Wait, we got 3 in front of you, so wait. So,
Maybe I'm jumping the gun and you're gonna address this, but if I am hosting an open house, does every person have to sign
They do
some
not.
sort of agreement to come in the door?
they do not. Here's the deal. Well, that was my next thing I was gonna tell you. So jumping ahead, for an open house, you are a what? Seller sub-agent. You're hosting a house for the seller on behalf of one of the listing agents in our office most often. And you are not representing anyone except for a sub-agent of the seller. So anyone can show up to an open house. What happens if tomorrow they say, oh my gosh, I love that house. I want to make an offer. I met you yesterday. What happens?
You get a buyer agency
You get a
agreement.
buyer agency agreement and you proceed, like, right? So
Okay, so back to Rhea, working real estate.
WWRA,
Part
that-
1, if you are explaining it thoroughly.
yeah,
Okay, first off, real estate commission don't care about you. They are here to protect the public.
public.
It ain't you. Nobody cares about you, period, point blank. You care about you, NCR might care about you, Jason definitely cares about you because he cares about all of us, all right? The only way that you can tell and prove that you did your job is to get a signature on WWREA.
Yeah.
So please stop telling people, you ain't gotta sign if you don't want to. At the top, it says you are signing this to say that I gave you a copy.
Yeah.
And so when you're explaining it to people, just say, hey, look, all I'm doing is asking you to sign that I gave you this because I want to keep my license. If I didn't explain it to you, then okay, well, no, I don't want to sign. Okay, what part do I need to explain again? Because maybe we need to talk about this one more time. Because all you're signing is that I gave you a copy. 3 times in the top part of the daggone form, it says this is not a contract.
Yep.
You are signing that I give you a copy of this form and that I'm reviewing it with you.
Yeah.
If you've asked them 12 times, you went back over it 3 times, like, what do you not understand about this part? Oh, do I need to go back over? Coach, I'm your coach. I'm a referee. I'm a coach. And then I'll work for you because you dumb. Don't do that. You say those 3 things. What do you not get? And then you get them to sign it. And then if they want to be like, oh, okay, so I didn't do my job. Tell me how I can do it better so that you'll sign it. Then after that, that's it. But y'all just don't tell them that you can do that because a lot of people think, oh, well, you don't have to sign it and see. And I hear all the time.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing I say, I circle, this is not a contract, and I'll say, this is in case I get audited from the state, that I have covered this information with you, and I give you a copy of it, and that you're not signing something you don't understand that I've not explained. So, because it's not a contingency agreement, it's an informational document. Yes,
Did I hear you say that, we can only do a 3-month, contract?
that is the
Not
recommendation from the Consumer Protection Bureau.
3 months.
That's what they're recommending, but
So-
that is not a rule yet. I'm just telling you that's a recommend.
That's a suggestion.
Yeah, so,
It's kind of
Yeah.
like an opinion.
yeah. So until something like, again, DOJ has not officially like weighed in, this is the rule. And hey, before we get too much deeper, I want to tell you something. What is the lawsuit itself? Is a lawsuit between parties, right? Between individuals, right? It is not a lawsuit. Does NAR create forms? Does NAR create compensation numbers? Who does? The firm, alongside the agent representing the firm. The lawsuit was not about NAR. Why did NAR get pulled in? Because they own a lot of the NARs are MLS owned, right, from the Realtor Association, sir. And they stepped in to protect 80% of the population of realtors. Because the 123 Main Street, 81% are not big brokerages like us. They're 3 to 5, 10, under 10 agents. They couldn't pay $5 billion collectively. So NAR stepped in to settle it, to stop the noise. And NAR was not even, they're not even a party to contracts between parties. They're not a part of that, right? They are part of the industry, so. Brokerages, they were, it was a class action. So it was folks in Missouri, then piggyback to 14 other states that were saying, we didn't know we were paying what we were paying. I signed the form. I didn't know, understand it. All the offices, Caldwell, EXP, KW, all these other firms, they are in cahoots and all charge the same thing. And that's what's the settlement came out of it was. The jurors said, yep, I think they did. And thus the settlement. We're trying to stop it. So, who paid for what? This is back to what Karen was saying earlier, right? It's kind of like the chicken and the egg. If you honestly look at it, who pays for the house? The buyer, right? Who gets the money from the sale of the house? The seller.
And the agent.
And then the seller paid
The agent.
the agent. In the MLS and in their listing agreement, they agreed as part of that payment that they would pay a portion to the other side. So they paid both agents. Who paid the attorneys? Both of them, right? So did the chicken buyer lay the egg to create the money to pay both agents? Or did the egg hatch and then the egg paid both agents? And see what I'm saying? It's kind of convoluted. That's what they were accusing. Yeah, so that's what they're looking at is the buyer, the cost on the buy side are incredibly high compared to the sell side. And here's my argument to the sellers that I'm not doing that. You were fine when you bought that house and it happened that way. I'm your agent. I've listed your house. And Beth and Pete say, I'm not paying a buyer's agent. That's ridiculous. I'm not paying another agent. They're not representing me. You are. And I say, gosh, there's no history of your house, your days on market, what's going to happen if you don't pay the other side. That's a decision you have to make. You're welcome to make that decision. And I do understand that when you bought your house, Beth and Pete, you actually were on the buy side. And the buy side was paid from the selling side, just like you're refusing to do this time. So you were at an advantage when you bought the house. You didn't have to pay your agent directly. But now you have a choice. You don't have to. just understand it's almost like the circle of life that you bought your house and they paid and you're selling your house and you're paying, you know what I'm saying? So-
Can I jump in with
Yeah.
a few things from,
love y'all.
from our Zoomers? This is actually a very good question. What do you suggest we do if we have a buyer agency agreement filled out? Then the client's family wants to come and see the property, but the client isn't available to attend simultaneous.
So there's nowhere that says you can't do an agent preview. Your client is the one that signed your agency with you. If someone else in their family wants to see it, and that would not be the actual client, I mean, to me, you're gonna have to have some kind of agreement with them, a non-exclusive that I'm just showing you this. And you can negate the fees and this, you make it real quick on that page. I just need this so we can see the house if you want to see it, because that's the rules. Not my rules, these are the rules. Don't matter if you're in Virginia, Texas, Tennessee, California, whatever, this is what the rules are. You have to sign some type of an agreement that explains payment before you go inside. That would be my recommend. At this point, there's not a showing form out there. Like, I'm just showing you this house. There's not such a thing. They steered away from that because it doesn't explain to the public. And again, you got to think public. Think layman's terms. They don't understand who is getting paid for what and how until that you explain it to them. So a showing form itself is that they don't understand, even if you just show the form, show the house, they don't understand payment if they decide to move forward. That's why you don't have that document. Yes.
So, can I do a few of these, Joe, and then?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Another one, I think this, I can probably answer this one pretty quickly. How does this work for open houses? We covered that.
Yeah.
If you're an agent showing another agent's client. So same thing, they're covered under buyer agency with the firm.
Yeah.
Because the agency agreement is with the firm.
Yeah.
Let's see, also.
So like if you're out of town and I'm showing your house, and you've got an agency already, I don't need a new one to show for you while you're gone.
Right.
So.
How
Good
are,
question.
how are inspectors, appraisers, et cetera, getting into homes?
Inspectors, appraisers and whatever are not a realtor. They don't have to follow these rules. Good question, though. That came up yesterday. These are realtor rules.
What if an out-of-state client doesn't sign electronically due to technology issues, but wants appointment to see a house?
You're
How
gonna
do-
have paper copy.
How do I make the appointment since I have no agreement signed? The answer is you cannot.
Yep.
Because
So
that was actually something I was gonna devil advocate on is FaceTiming.
Yeah.
The you know, oh, well, you know, that's a loophole
No.
that agents are gonna try it because they're not physically taking that buyer across the threshold. But they are there. You still have to have that buyer agency
If their
agreement.
face is crossing it electronically, you do have to have one.
Yes.
So you can make the appointment.
You can make the appointment, yes. Right. And and that's how they're gonna police it later on. I'll tell you, they're policing it through showing time. Showing time is an extension of the MLS that we use. Or the showing services are how it's gonna be policed. So it's gonna ask you when you go to book an appointment, starting August whatever for Triad and August 6th for Triangle, do you have a signed agency with this? Do you have an agreement with this client? Yes or no? You may say no. They may then audit you and ask if you go to the house and see where, show me, I want to see it. Did you get one before you cross the threshold? So you can book the appointment, but before you physically take a person across the threshold, they have to have some kind of agreement in place. I mean, you may not like the rule. The rule's the rule. I mean, that's the way it is. So.
Jodon has the mic.
Going back,
Yeah, and that's how the showing time is then gonna let the commission know that
And here's the thing.
these
it's-
folks didn't when they booked the appointment, and then you just have to prove it.
They're not gonna be able to verify every single person right now,
True.
but you better have your ducks in a row for when they do ask for it.
Yep.
That's what it all boils down to.
Exactly,
Because if
right.
not,
Anthony.
you've already seen the first violation, second violation, third violation.
Yep.
Most definitely.
You should have one anyway.
Show how.
Yeah, you should have some record of showing because you got the WWRA anyway.
These are Zillow calls. They want to see it in an hour.
And-
Okay, I'll meet you there and I'll bring my agency agreement at the time for an open door.
There you go.
That
Right
sounds
answer.
good.
Thank you, Kurt. You got it. Ding, 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 ding.
So. Showdown has the mic.
I'm okay.
Oh, I thought he was done. Are you?
No, I'm
I
here till
didn't-
6, by the
I didn't hear Kurt.
So am
It's
I.
hard to hear on
With all
Zoom.
due respect, going back to the conversation that you had about explaining that the buyer ultimately pays the commission and now the seller doesn't want to, and then you said, well, it worked for you when you bought the house. That's what we're trying to get away from.
Exactly.
You have to be careful about saying that because that is saying the standard is. And so you've got to be able to explain it as like, no, even though that's you can mention, well, that's how it was when, I wouldn't even say that.
Before this lawsuit.
Yeah.
We don't
Because the
tell you how
lawsuit
to have
is saying-
conversations, but we,
The lawsuit is saying that we can't say this is the way it's always been done because
Correct.
that's what we're having to get away from.
Yep.
The way to explain it to the seller is, and there's a script for that.
August 6th, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30.
Buyers that are willing to pay top dollar for a large ticket item like this are going to be using an agent. And part of my fee is going to appeal to those agents to reach those buyers that are willing to pay top dollar for this home. So the commission, my fee
Compensation.
is this, my compensation is this. I will share, and it will be in our agreement that I will share a portion of that fee to the buyer to the agent that brings the buyer. And we do want top dollar for your home, right? And we do
We
want
do
to
want the
reach
most amount
those,
to show
we
it.
do want to reach those buyers that are willing and waiting for your property to go on the property or go on the market.
Nailed it.
We explain to them that if this isn't agreeable to them, then their option is they can sell the house themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
That's
you're
all it's
explaining to them that they have, they're not, for some reason, I'm getting the feeling that the lawsuit was, that they felt like they were stuck, that they have no other option.
Yep, they felt like they were overcharged and overinflated the price of their home is what they claimed. And nowhere, any transaction in all the years I've been doing real estate, 9, have I seen an agent say, well, the market price of your house is this, and then the fees are this, this, and this, so we're gonna put that. You know, you look up what sold in the last 6 months around it as closely and as identical as it is. Market current stats out there, the competition, and then you say, this is probably the closest range I can get to what the right price for your home is. The fees come out of that price. It's not over and above. So-
Okay, so I will say that the comp that you're pulling has compensation built into
It
it.
did.
So if it's sold for 400, that was with compensation. So it truly is a comp all the
Yep.
way around with the compensation included in that.
I want to go back to agent previews. Sometimes I'm previewing a property to see what's on the market or if it could possibly work for someone else. Is that still an option?
Agent
Like,
previews are fine. You don't have to have an agreement with yourself or
okay,
you just can't take them
just got
across the threshold electronically.
nervous.
If you're the buyer, you got.
I got an agent agreement
Yeah.
myself.
So you can see it
So-
online.
And I just need to make a note that I was literally just doing the agent preview,
Yeah.
not
Yep.
for someone specific.
It's
And
appointment
I mean, I do that
option.
anyway,
Yep.
but okay, just
Yeah.
making sure that.
Same thing on home tour. We don't have to have all you sign any document to see a home, right? Your agent previewing a home. So. Zach.
I kind of have a follow-up to Jodon's, on the listing side, but I was.
We don't. But negates what you
And-
said.
And on the buyer side, how do you approach a conversation where they want to see a house that might not have a cooperative compensation agreement? I'm sure it's similar to for sale by owner,
Very
But
much so.
I'm new, so I
Yeah,
haven't
sure.
transacted anything, so I'm just listening to all.
Yeah,
the
it's that same conversation. It's like, Mr. Seller for sale by owner, or, Mr. Buyer, Miss Buyer, client, not customer, client. This particular home that you chose is not offering compensation. And per our agreement, this is my fee. And then that's when you have a decision to make. If they are going to pay your fee, all's well and you keep moving. If they can't or won't, or you had that conversation in your buyer consultation of what they could and couldn't do, that's when you say, well, house 3 does, house 2 doesn't. If you want to move forward with house 2, then the money's coming from you to pay my fees.
I guess I'm kind of asking.
Yeah. Sure.
How do you
want to proceed?
Up front.
You would say, one, you have to find out. That's the next rule coming up later, is you can't make an offer until your client knows if they're offering compensation or not. So, and you can't send the document with the offer. You can't just send the form, "Are you going to pay me?" with the offer. You have to find out first.
Yeah.
Your client has to know, and it's fine if it's verbal and they say, yes, we're paying 2.5 or 3 or whatever it is. Exactly. You can't send the form like you do addendums and say, oh, here, in addition to this offer, and we'll tell you that a little bit later, compensation can't dictate the offer. That's against state legislation 58A, 11.11 something. So,
Hey,
Pete,
question.
answer.
Beth makes me show all the houses.
Does she?
Same question.
All right. Perfectly fine. Your
She gets
agreement.
away with it. You might too. Okay. I get a call.
Mhm.
I want to see 2 houses.
Fine,
One's 2.5%, one's 3.
fine.
I tell the person that I am showing these houses to, one's 2.5, one's 3.
Yes.
They can come back and say, well, will you give me half off on the other one? That extra 0.5%.
You ask them if they'll take the 2.5 to the 3. Is that what you're saying?
Wouldn't do 2.5 for both of them. They're negotiating with me as an agent,
So,
and that's part of it.
so one, day one, sentence one in real estate, everything is negotiable. So yes.
I know.
But if they can see houses with multiple compensations, yes, but can that conflict with what your agreement is? Your agreement is for what your fee is. And if they're not offering what your fee is, that difference comes from your client. Or you and your client negotiate the difference. Okay, that one's a 3, this one's a 2.5, and my fee's a 3. If we're moving forward, you have to accept the 3, or you have to have them pay the
Yeah.
0.5.
And it
And
could
there's a
be
form for that.
agreed upon.
Yeah. it's
In
gotta be
other words, so if you say, it's kind of like when we used to put, or what's offered in MLS.
same concept.
And same concept, yes. So when all these agents started going down to 2.5, going down to 2.4,
2.
good gracious, who knows how much lower it's gonna go? Same thing. You agreed as their agent to accept what was offered in MLS. So the same thing, if you put 3 in your buyer agency agreement, which you should, then if you choose to accept the 2.5 that the co-broke is offering, then you're just waiving that 0.5%
Like you
that the
do
buyer
today.
has to pay you.
Yep. You just have to update the form,
Yeah.
or you have to fill out the new form that I'm
Yeah.
getting ready to show. Yeah, and I got forms for you, so we'll cover that if we'll
So
move
what
on.
I thought he was gonna ask, okay, so David shows,
Husband David.
yes, so he shows, if somebody calls me and I'm tied up, he goes and shows our client. The agreement is
With the firm.
With the firm.
It's not with
Okay.
you.
So it's not with you
Okay.
personally, it's
Okay.
with Keller Williams.
It ain't about you, Tammy.
So literally, I could go show you. You could say, Jason, oh my gosh, I'm tied up. David's tied up. Can you show me? Yes, I can still show it. I don't have to get a new agreement. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
it can be anybody. That was the same question that Dreama had. If
Yep.
she's showing for another.
I love
So,
y'all.
if I
There's still
come
more
up-
slides.
Listing appointment and the seller says they are not gonna pay any buyer compensation.
Yes.
Am I gonna get in trouble if I say, well, I'm sorry, I'm
No,
not gonna list the house for you?
no, you have. a
You don't
choice.
ever have to take a listing for
Yeah, you can
any
always do
or no reason. That is a business decision that you make.
You can say that's not my business model and I'm not the best agent for you.
Yep.
So,
Or
Perfectly
you
fine.
could, if, and I would say, I mean, I would definitely say this is after you've already had an earnest conversation with
Yeah.
them as to the benefits of why they should compensate a buyer agent.
it's about value, what you bring to the transaction. And it's
That's
not.
why we've been working on value proposition.
Yes. And not why it's not this transaction. It's all 9 years of my experience and the 200 agents that I work with and their knowledge that all the leadership team we have and training we have. So,
So I watched a couple of videos from, real estate commission.
yes,
that-
videos from the real estate commission.
That explain the forms, the new buyer's, yes, the new buyer's agency agreement and everything, which I love the new buyer's agent agreement. I thought it was very self-explanatory. I think it showed our value, that we are not working for free. I love that. And I actually met at Starbucks Saturday with a couple and we went over, I highlighted some of the new verbiage on there. And I felt so wonderful after that, and they thanked me for it. So they thanked me for helping explain all that to them.
It's clearer now to me. Yeah. So the answers to that last one in the lawsuit is yes. The sellers said they didn't understand. The buyer said they didn't understand. Who has the knowledge to educate? The agents, right? So that's who they came after. You didn't educate me. And who got paid? The attorneys got paid regardless. Didn't matter who knew what, the attorneys got paid. Yeah.
Real quick, I'm going to answer a question. Melissa, yes. All of the MLSs will remove that data field will no longer be there whenever you look at an MLS sheet, and on the input sheet, there will no longer be anywhere to enter any type of compensation.
Yeah, they're taking all that stuff away. And again, Triad's August 1st, Triangle's August 6th, even though the agreement technically starts the 17th. The MLSs have been charged to get that stuff out of there. So, yeah.
I forgot what I was asking.
It'll come to you. I did the
It'll
same
come
thing.
back. Okay.
All right, Beth, you get 3.
So real quick, I think I already know the answer, but I just want.
And
So I have showed some houses for some friends of other agencies that were out of town. I guess that would probably be out of the question at this point. If I did, it's frowned upon.
yeah, that would be frowned upon. So showing it, like I've got a buddy over at Hill Barber where I used to work and I'll show a house for them. The agreement's with the firm, it's not with me. So technically I'm not covered in that agreement to cross the threshold. So I would sign a non-exclusive and show my buddy's house. It was perfectly fine. And say, hey, you owe me some money for showing that house, especially if they buy it.
I'm getting ready to list a house.
Yep.
To go in tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm do it the old way
Okay.
and I don't have to do anything else.
Nope.
I mean, I put in what the buyer was gonna get,
Yes.
so I don't have.
Just know it's going to be removed in 2 weeks. So put it in, that's not changed the way you
Yeah.
put stuff in.
It's automatically going to
Just know that those questions will go away. And if it's already pre-filled and entered, it will just be wiped out. So anybody else before we move on? Questions online? I love y'all. Nope.
Yep.
Nope. I'll cover that.
Yeah.
That's
we'll get there.
100% against the concept of what we're doing is
Yes, there's not a
Yes.
sneak around.
there, right. There's not there's a group out of the mountains that have a A and a Ville at the end. And they've said, oh, we're going to create this little platform. Y'all just join us and we'll just put it all in. Nope. Yep. Yep. So next. Question, what form do I use? If you came to my forms class, you were told. Or if you watch John Waite's many videos that were put out from NCR, or if you go to the Facebook group that's Mobile Mondays, that's where they are. So there's a buying and listing agreement. Yes, you have to have those. A compensation agreement. Yes, you have to have those. Any amendments? Yes, you have to have those. And D is yes, you have to have those. So, yeah. So, buyer agency or listing agreement. You enter a number under compensation. No range. Don't put it in the MLS. Don't put it in the verbiage. I've seen these crazy social media like, oh, this 3-bedroom has been update, all these, how, no, and I'll tell you how strict this is. You're not gonna believe this. Your violation removes the firm from the MLS.
It
So I
removes
don't,
you and the firm.
so I don't think you'd want to be the agent that took Keller Williams out of the MLS. In one of the MLSs at the moment.
It's non-forgiving.
Yeah. There's another one that's $1,000 fine the first time, and it's 2,500 the second. It's 5,000 the third and expulsion. So if y'all got $5,000. So, all right. So buyer agency listing agreement. You got to enter a number, right? 8,000 because it's going to be 8,500. 220 is your friend. You get to know it, you get to learn it. Every block, every phone, every 220 is your friend. Highway 220. It takes you to Asheboro to the largest zoo in the world. Y'all didn't know that. That's the largest zoo. 220 is the cooperating compensation agreement that you need signed, which will be required in your documents if there's compensation there on the other side, because you have to have that in writing. Because again, your client has to know when before you make an offer, if there's cooperating compensation. And where does that solidify? Form 220.
So that's for the buying agent, the buyer, and also the seller.
I'm going to have an example of it and you'll see it. Yep. Next slide. So
Yes.
220 is your friend.
Did you want to talk about 710 while we're on?
Yeah, I've got examples of all these, so y'all don't.
Listing. 220 can be signed by the agent instead of the seller. It's either.
It can, yeah. It's 220 is agreement to compensation, whether it's from seller to agent to firm it's all the party. Whatever you fill out is where the money's coming from, and it's the agreement to compensation. And all the boxes are there. So yeah, and it's a real one right there. I screenshotted this. So 220 compensation, cooperating compensation agreement. And y'all, blue boxes are information, right? Only use this form to create an agreement for cooperating compensation if a seller is represented by a licensed agent. Use Form 150 instead if you're creating compensation with an unrepresented seller. Do not, in bold, upload this to the MLS. Because some agents have said, I just put that in the attachments and there it is. Nope. You'll remove Keller Williams and yourself from the MLS. Ever.
Beth?
That was number 2, Beth. You got 3. No. So it's between seller, buyer, property that's listed. And if it's not between the buyer, if it's not between those parties, you fill that out the way it is. And then the fee, whether it's seller or if it's the firm, if it's a percent or if it's a fee or if it's something else like chickens for a year, I don't know. Payment of the fee is then later on. So that's a screenshot of that document, which is um 220 is here. So like Joe said earlier, my fee covers the other side. So that payment would be coming from the firm if they were paying it like if it was a referral or if you're paying it outside of the settlement itself. Like this is where the agreement to compensation, any type of compensation, if it's a cooperating compensation between two parties, whether it's the firms, whether it's the buyer, whether it's the seller, the agents, wherever it's coming from, this is an agreement to compensation. And this is the front page. And then these are the parties that agree to pay whatever you just agreed to in that sentence. Before
time of offer.
Yeah.
Either doing it for seller or buyer.
Yep.
You wouldn't be having a seller name and a buyer.
You would. Just like you have on contracts, you have a name for both parties and the address.
So this is buyer. Your buyer make an offer on somebody's property, you need to send this to the listing agent and say.
Yes,
This is what we, oh, I mean.
yes, this is the legal document that agrees to cooperate compensation.
This, not so, just that the buyer might say.
Possibly, if you get this filled out at the listing point up front, yes, you could have this. As a part of your listing package, you could have this, yes. Yeah, the buyer has, the buyer client has to know if you're offering cooperating compensation.
Jason?
Oh, it's gonna be blank. You're
Right.
gonna send us a blank one, we're gonna put on this.
Same thing as the disclosures. Right now, you get them signed, right? They sign it before you know who the buyer is. You get the OMG and the MOG, OMG, and the RPD. You do not put this in MLS. This cannot be in the MLS.
Jason?
Yes.
Hey, Natalie Marone, I'm on
Hey,
Rebecca's.
Nat.
Hey,
doing?
sorry, we're on Zoom. I have a couple questions. Can I have my seller fill this out at the time of doing the listing agreement and put it in?
Absolutely.
Can I put it on the kitchen table or in the book?
You can. That's later in the slide.
Okay, great. And my
Can
third
it be in the
question,
book on the kitchen table on the island? Absolutely.
my third question is, let's say I want to show a house and I call the agent and the agent says, my seller will not offer the compensation until he sees the offer to purchase. How do I handle that?
That is between you and your client, because the client is the one that owes you the money. Your client. The buyer's agent is the one that's agreed to pay you. So then that's a conversation with you and your client. You say, buyer client, this particular seller is not going to offer compensation until they see your offer and dictate from there, and then y'all have a decision to make. Do you want to move forward or not?
Is it true the real estate commission is allowing us to send the offer to purchase as a contingent that they
No.
are paying a certain percentage?
Yeah, 58A says you can't, an offer cannot be dictated upon compensation. That's a North Carolina general statute. So
All right, I still don't
it's a
understand.
good question, but
This Form 220 is supposed to be used when a licensed real estate agent is involved, right?
yes,
So it's a listing. So why under,
our buyer, either way.
okay. So why under okay, maybe that's just what. Under fee, why does it say seller or listing firm agrees to pay the selling firm? Aren't they the same? The listing firm and the seller are the same.
Not always. Yeah, the seller owns the house if they're agreeing to
Well,
pay,
all right,
or if,
please explain the difference here, because if this house is a house this property is a property that's been listed. There's a licensed agent involved. There's a listing firm involved that represents the seller. I don't understand which of those boxes should be checked under which different circumstances.
so if
Please
the
explain.
seller, this is an agreement between two parties. This is not about the offer to purchase. So the seller can agree to pay an agent or their firm. So not even a part of this is an agreement between two parties. I'm gonna pay you if you execute this offer. That's seller to you, right? Or this is also an agreement to compensation if the firm, like Jordan had said earlier, this is my fee and part of my fee pays the other side. That's where it would come from, the firm's portion. So either the firm is paying it or the seller is paying directly. So it's agreement to compensation between two parties.
Can I explain it?
Yes.
Seller pays.
So your negotiation with the seller at the time of the listing,
Agent.
with the listing agent, having our consultation with the seller, the listing appointment.
Yep.
This is our fee. This is in the listing agreement. This is what the fee is, whatever that fee is. The seller has already agreed to that. Put that to bed. They're done. Okay? You market the property. Buyer agent says, I've got a buyer for this property. I've already shown it. You're going to make that natural phone call to the listing agent. Hey, congratulations on your listing. I've got a buyer that's interested in the property. What is the cooperating fee, if any, that you're giving to a buyer's agent? Let's say it's 3%. Fine, we'll be working on an offer. I'm going to send over Form 220. If you can put that and sign it off, says that I'm going to get my 3%, we'll have our offer ready and then we'll send the offer. That's it.
This is the old form hey, Alice, Remember
The
when, if
listing
you were a
firm-
buyer's agent and you went to a for sale by owner, you filled out agreement compensation, right? Same form,
It's the same form.
same form.
And so in that case, for sale by owner, you would check that the seller.
Because after August sixth, you're not gonna know what that cooperating
Correct. You'll never know.
compensation fee is. So you're gonna make that phone call and you're gonna ask the listing agent, what, if any, is your compensation to buyer's agents?
You do that.
Okay, and whatever that is,
It's checked
okay, yeah, let me explain that. The seller doesn't even have to be part of this.
Correct.
Because they've already agreed to that through the listing agreement.
Yes,
So you're gonna say as a buyer's agent, fine, I'm gonna send you over 220. The listing firm is the one that's gonna sign it. Because, yeah. And so it says, well, thank you, 3%. I'm gonna get this in writing. I'll send you over the 220. You sign it and send it back to me, then we'll have our offer ready.
or if the seller's paying it on the CD, you just check seller, because that's where it's coming from, off the seller proceed of the house. The only time you don't use this form anymore for agreement to payment is unrepresented. If there's not an agent on the selling side, use 150. 150 is the same form, it just says you ain't represented.
So are you saying the listing firm agrees to pay selling? Is that what should be checked?
It depends on what your agreement is in the listing agreement. If the seller is going to pay at the table for the settlement for both parties, then yes, you would check seller. If they are not, but then that payment is coming, you got to think referral, people. If you get a referral today, who pays a referral? Does it come out of the table at the attorney's office? No, it comes from the listing firm, right? So think of that way. You check firm if the firm is going to pay it. You check seller if it's going to be a part of the CD and the seller's paying it.
So if I have an agreement with the seller that they're paying 6%, and then my agreement with the buyer, I can agree 3% or 2.5, right? I'm
Yes.
agreeing that out of what the seller is paying me.
Yes, whatever your
Okay.
agreement is that they signed on page 7, I think it is. So,
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are
I love y'all, y'all are good.
a buyer's agent,
BA.
are they gonna know what the compensation is before they show the house?
No,
I am.
you can ask.
You call, yeah, I mean, you can call and ask.
You can say as a part of the appointment. So there's some recommends on later slides. If y'all give me time to get there, we got 14 minutes. There are ways you can get around this to make it quicker. But yes, if your buyer says, look, Jason, I love you, you're my agent, and I know you charge 3%, I can't pay you. So I don't want to see any houses that don't pay 3%. So what do I do? How do I find out 3%? You call the agent and say, my buyer wants this house, they want to see it, but they can't pay. And my fee's 3%. Are you paying 3%? And if they don't, then that ain't the house. You keep it moving. Or you would agree to whatever the terms that they do pay, or if they're not paying. If they don't pay, you tell your client, hey, I love you, Beth. I love you, you love me, and I know my fee's 3%. The one you chose ain't paying nothing. So what are we going to do? And that's a conversation you have with your client. So 220, agreement to compensation.
Yeah, Zoom question. Don't we need to let the seller know that we plan to split the commission with with a co-broke?
That is in your listing agreement. So
That's-
yes, you're required to let them know. That's one of your check boxes in the listing agreement. So yes, you have to let them know. 710.
So Jason,
Yes.
so quick question. So if during that listing appointment, you say 6%, the listing agent says 6%, they cannot, and they were going to split 3 and 3. That's what they told the seller. They cannot change that and decide on their own to take 3.5 and give the buyer's agent 2.5, correct?
They cannot.
That is correct.
Whatever that agreement was when you listed the listing agreement, if it was 3.5, 2.5, that's the price. If it's 3 and 3, that's the price. Like you can't, once you agree, it's in writing, and that's later on. Once you agree to the number is the number. We can't play with the number. If the
Right, so
number
how is that
changes,
policed?
we have to update the form or renegotiate with our clients. So 710, Agency agreement renewal and or amendment. So if we decide, I charge Beth 3. Beth picks Main Street's 2.5. Beth owes me 0.5%. What do? Beth, you owe me 0.5%. Beth says, don't have it. So I have to decide, I'll take 2.5 because that's what they're offering. Because I've got a 220. And I agreement to amend our agency agreement, 710. 710 is your friend. 710 is a client document between parties of the firm and the client. Nothing to do with the other side unless they're not offering compensation. 220 is where the other side gets involved. If you need to change something you've agreed to in buyer agency or in listing agreement, maybe they get a great offer and they weren't offering, but part of the offer says their agent gets 3 and I'm gonna take that offer. I have to amend this 710 and change it. So 710 is your 220 other parties. 710 changes the agreement with your client and the firm. 770 says it discloses compensation. What if you go to a builder and they pick out a house and they offer 4%? And your agreement was for 3. Can you take that extra percent? No. No. You can if you do a 770. This changes that you are disclosing to your client you are getting compensated more. And they agree to it. 770.
Or getting a cruise.
Yeah, or
a bonus.
yeah, or $1,500 if you close by February. I don't know, whatever they offer. What was happening before, because we had the or as stated in MLS, or we just let it go, we didn't go back and enforce the percentages that were different anywhere. Most people didn't. You could have. We didn't. What they're saying now is if it's different from whatever they signed in front of you at the original consultation, it's got to be updated. Now, it can be, because see, it's other. Under that, it says monetary is this or a percent. Non-monetary is this, or if it's other. So that's the blanks. And then the client is acknowledging that they agree down below. So, and this one is a bonus, 710. You keep asking me, what about these I've signed before? What about the ones that we signed in June and I ain't sold it yet? 710 is your friend, 715 is your friend. 715 takes every document that was signed prior to July 1st current. So anything that was signed prior to July 1st that was not on a 724 form, this one page makes you current and compliant. July 1st. July 1st. That's when forms change. Forms.
Hey, Jason,
Hey.
I read online, I don't know exactly where, I'm pretty sure it was like from an NCREC like email or something like that, where if your clients are not willing to sign the 715 form, then that's technically okay, but you need to verbally disclose to them pretty much all the new rules that have changed. But if they do not sign it, then you are still fully in contract. Is that correct?
No, I mean, you can only accept, like if they offer 4% and your agreement's 3, you can only get paid 3. You are not allowed to take more payment than what's on that piece of paper you agreed to first.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying for listing contracts that I have prior to this change, they're transitioning over with the rule changes, that you're supposed to try to get them to sign stuff to get it up to date, so it's all on record. But it said something like, even if you can't get them to sign it, like everything's still fine. Is that just what you're supposed to do?
Oh, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Current.
Yeah, if it's current and it's still in the date before the expiration.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if I signed a 6-month term for listing on June 1st and I'm going to close it on December 1st, that's a legal document until December 1st. They don't have to sign anything different. If
Yeah.
you want them to understand and update 715 that says, hey, this just brings everything in compliance with our new year, 24-25, they can do a 715. Because it talks about disclosure. This is an amendment between the client and the firm. There's a compensation disclosure that you understand the amount and format and rate of not fixed by law or and is set by each broker and or firm and is fully negotiable. Any additional compensation, if any, incentive, bonus, rebate, or other valuable consideration to the firm or any party within exceeds the client expectation to pay, they disclose the potential for additional compensation. So,
Thank you.
yes, Christy. What? There's no
You don't
rule
have
to
to do
that
it
one.
at
You don't
all.
have to do that one at all. As long as you've got the agreement, you don't have to do it until
It
it expires. So, yeah. Yes, Christy. Okay. Can you compensate can compensation be in the OTP? Yes? Happy? Or no? No. No. 58.A, state legislature. You are not allowed, compensation cannot be a portion or dictate the offer. So what you cannot do, if you take away nothing from this hour and a half, you cannot put in any compensation in the MLS. You cannot put it in the comments. You cannot put it in code words or percents or, hieroglyphics. I don't care what it is. You cannot put it in the MLS. You can't say there's a 3 bedrooms per family this century. Like, you can't do that crap. You cannot code it in any comments, private comments. If it's got to do with an MLS number, it better not be in there. Or an attachment, like you attach the MOG or you attach the RPD or all the wonderful things about this house, no attachments. Even if you've got a 220 ready to go, it is not attached. Because 220 is between parties, not MLS. MLS has nothing to do with money other than the MLS is the description of a house that is on the market, period. That's it. What
Jason.
you cannot do is put it in showing time. Yeah. You don't have price, number of bedrooms, size, all the same things except money, except payment, no compensation. You cannot put it in
He was
showing
just
time.
saying, like, don't try to get tricky in your comments on MLS to somehow embed
Yeah.
what the compensation is that you're offering.
Yeah.
Can we say
You
that?
describe the house,
Absolutely.
as long as it's not anything to do with
You can't talk
compensation.
no compensation.
Nothing about
You got it.
compensation.
Can we say for cooperative compensation?
No.
call number?
No.
No.
Nothing about compensation. You could
No.
say it's got 3 bedrooms, it's got a driveway,
And well,
it has 4 walls.
So explanation behind that, Pete, is it's not really as popular today as it used to be, but some people still have a Google number.
Yeah.
And so that Google number, the buyer calls or, whatever, and it says, here's, then it's a recording. So same concept.
Where did
because
they get the number from?
Yeah,
MLS.
MLS,
Where can compensation not be?
MLS.
LMLS.
You.
No,
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 Well, my number did.
I don't care.
your
Call your phone number. You can call your
Yes.
phone number.
Your phone number.
You cannot
is
put the
MLS.
compensation in showing time.
Send offers to my email address.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And any questions, contact Pete Gladwell at so-and-so.
Okay, that
That's
they have
fine.
questions about the house,
Yes.
but not, Yeah. I would say any questions about this listing. I mean, maybe this house, I mean, I wouldn't, that's risky.
I've always done it, so.
But things are changing.
Yeah, things are changing. I love you, but
Just
that's risky.
be cautious. Be cautious.
Yes, sir.
I am seeing something in the agent remarks that says compensation is only offered to agents within.
That's going away.
the
That's going away.
MLS.
It's being pulled on August 6th.
Was that a default thing?
It
or
was.
is that
It was.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a default.
It's a
Yeah.
default and it's going away. Because the word compensation or a number or an amount or percent or a dollar or is nothing, only price you will see in only dollar amount in the listing should be the price of the house.
So I just wanted to ask if.
No.
What if listing agents get tired of answering
They
the
will.
phone and
They
they
will.
just make it
Answer-
part of their voicemail?
As an instructor I
call
had
about
once,
listing.
answer your D phone.
Could they just put it in their voicemail? If
Can
you're
it be,
calling about
can it be
listing
in your
ABC,
voicemail? Yes.
We're offering 3%.
Yes,
Voicemail.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Your voicemail
If
is
you
not
are an agent
MLS.
and you are calling and inquiring about compensation being offered on 123 Main Street, the compensation amount is 2.5%.
That's fine.
Sure.
And that's coming later slide if y'all let me get to it.
So this is a recommendation / can I do this?
A friend of mine,
In my brain, I would meet with my listing client. We would come to terms, fill out the listing agreement. I would also fill out the 220
great.
with the seller's name, with the property address,
it.
with what's being paid.
Love
And
it.
so anytime an agent calls me, I can text it, email it.
Later slide.
pigeon carrier.
Later slide. Yes.
Christy May just explained best practices.
Once, here's a biggie, like state law going to jail. Once an offer is made, oh, I can't spell. Listing, you cannot modify that compensation once you're in agreement. Like, ooh, you asked for some repairs, we're gonna drop that compensation. No, sir, ma'am. No, sir, ma'am, you agreed to whatever that offer was made.
It's the same concept as it was when compensation was offered through MLS. You know, there were always agents that were out there that were like, oh, well, if your buyer, if they come down on this price, are you willing to reduce your commission? We got those questions before having that printout of that MLS sheet with what the compensation was offered at the time that we made the offer was our protection factor.
It was.
We don't have that anymore. So this is the protection factor. Once that 220 is signed, there's no more compensation negotiation from there.
Correct.
So we can't, like I had one recently and it all worked out. Nobody had to give any commission, but both sides we were gonna give a little bit on each side.
So that might be when you check listing firm agrees to pay. You don't.
But all of
Hey, if something changes during a contract, what do? An amendment or an update?
but you can't modify.
And you can't, no, you can't unilaterally monitor, like you can't
You
one-sided.
can still agree to.
Yeah, parties can agree to anything. You can't change something, like the seller can't dictate changing something because they don't like, ooh, I'm not paying that because they asked for $1,000 in the basement.
He may be covering this, but in our private Keller Williams.
I will be
Facebook
drinking
page-
at 4:00.
Jason, could we all, on our private Facebook page, Keller Williams?
That's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Once it's made, the unilaterally, no decisions can change. Once it's signed, forget it. And once it's signed, what do you have to do? They have to sign something to change it, just like you do today. Nothing's different. You just can't unilaterally like dictate terms from buyer's agent. You cannot, without consent or condition, your payment, your compensation cannot be a part of the requirement offer. Like the offer can't dictate compensation. You can't throw that in there. Hey, we'll make you this offer if you'll pay X. That's illegal. That's like a, what is that? Like in HR, they call it a, yeah. Quid pro quo. Thank you. Jesus. Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah. Terminate. Seller can't without being sued. I mean, that don't change. Buyer can terminate and lose all their stuff. So, all right, next. That's what you can't do. What can you do? Beth?
You can go to Keller Williams Facebook.
You can and are required to ask before the offer is made. Before the offer is made, you have to tell your client. You can put compensation in writing. 220, which is your friend, you should have one, carry it with you, love it, in your car, in your bag, in your purse, just have one ready to go. Or 150. You can gain consent if something changes. You can negotiate with the other side. you can negotiate with your own side. Nothing wrong with that. If it changes, you just have to update it on a form. Or change, 150 is an unrepresented compensation agreement. So where can it go? If you had a sign writer that says, look, this is beautiful inside, we offer 3%. Can it be on a sign writer? Yes, because a sign writer is not where? In the MLS. You can put a notebook on the front table. This is beautiful. Love it. Here's the RPD, the MOG, the shopping addresses, the schools in the area, the whatever, and Form 220. Can you email it?
Over the house.
Can you email it? Yes, that's not MLS. Can you text it? Yes, a text is not MLS. Can you call them and say, are you paying? Yes. Only thing that I would be scary about is if you had the MLS sheet itself in the book. I would prefer you print out the KW sheet, features and benefits of the house in command. That's not an MLS sheet. You follow me? Because if they're in the book in the house and you got, oh, the house and the documents and the amendment and the 220, put the KW command marketing sheet in there, not the MLS sheet. That's just as a double sell. It is. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't want to be in front of a commissioner or a judge to explain, well, I thought I just put that form there. I mean, I wouldn't. They should. Client should have a version, buyer agent should have a version. Yes, sir. I got you and Emily.
Still gonna be a link in the MLS.
It is. So you can't no, I love that. Good question. That was one thing I was going to say. In an email, like you can't, like when the showing time email comes to you as an agent and it says, oh, I'm booked an appointment at 123 Main Street. You can't then just send that showing time email to them. You need to send a separate one. Okay, just to be safe. I would not send a reply showing time. I would just be careful. Anything, right, with compensation. I would just literally, I would send it separately. Like, don't marry those two. They're not friends. Okay. Perfectly fine. Yeah. Yeah. Your Facebook thing, your Facebook is what you only.
Check my Facebook page.
Only thing you can't do about the Facebook, you can't refer to MLS number 1003-794. Or if it like that, announce my listing where it says click here and it goes to the, you can't go back to the MLS. Like you just gotta be careful with that. So look, I'm trying to keep us all out of real estate jail, y'all. And I had 3 webinars yesterday and a meeting, and I've had 2 today. And that's just this week. So y'all can only imagine how many meetings I've been in about this. Yes.
My Facebook question.
Your Facebook. Can it go on Keller Williams?
Can it go, could all the agents that are listing something just say, I have a new listing, 123 Main Street. The compensation will be 2.75 to a buyer's agent.
Yes. As long as you don't say the MLS number. Yeah. Yes.
Could we get a separate private Facebook page?
KW's, hey, we're working on some stuff, KW. We got to be really, really careful about centralized information about compensation. So, which will be a problem, I'm promising you. Yeah, they are watching. Hey, we are the only industry, stay with me, the only industry that we go to another party and say, you pay me. If you think about it, think about an attorney. We're getting divorced. Pete and Beth, I love you, but y'all are fighting. Beth comes to me and I'm done with Pete. You gonna hire me? And I say, Pete, Beth is done. Will you pay me 3% to represent you and I'll get your divorce all taken care of? Does it work that way?
Having been through this crap.
No, No. Do you have dual attorneys? No, you don't. Do you have somebody at the car lot that says, hey, I'm representing the buyer and I'm representing the seller and you're gonna pay us both? No, that ain't how this works. Yes, Katrina.
So with our personal KW sites.
Yes,
Could we have a link to that on the Facebook with the compensation?
yes, you can link it to the KW. Here's the thing. If it's fed, and here's where we're getting legal and technical. If the listing is fed from the IDX of the MLS, no. Because see, if it's MLS and it's fed and that's where it gets its info, no. If it's from command and you create a marketing piece or a website to it, because you can, that's perfectly fine.
So the listing is fed from IDX to your website. So essentially the answer is no.
Yeah, it's risky. Yeah.
It's not Keller Williams, it's our own.
It doesn't matter. It's still IDX fed.
Just talking about Facebook. So if you're linking your listing to the KW site, the KW site got its information from what? The MLS, which is a problem. Not link it. You can say with a picture, right? You could say 123 Main Street, You can't link it to something because almost always it's going back to the MLS because where did you put the information in? Where did you start advertising a house? MLS, listing manager, right? Hey, is there more? Hey, all right. All right, raise your right hand. I pledge to not put any compensation anywhere related to the MLS, regardless of what MLS I belong to. All right, turn to your neighbor on the right. Turn to your neighbor. This is going to be okay. Turn to your neighbor on the left. Left. Change is a part of life, and it ain't the first or the last change we're going to go through. All right? It's going to be okay. Chicken Little, the sky ain't falling. You are the ones that are showing up, that are following, that are watching webinars, that are participating, that are in classrooms, that understand. It's the yahoos out there that don't. Those are the ones that are not, as I end every class, protecting the R. This is your superhero cape. This is your R. Beth's R is no different than my R. Judy's R is no different than my R. Those Yahoo agents at other agencies that aren't going through training, those R's are the same. That's folks that are giving our industry a bad name. Yes.
Back in the 1990s, when agency first came
Sure.
around, I was with Gadsden Little in Greensboro, and people were literally
Freaking out. Yep.
They were pitting over agency that they could never understand it and they would never be able to explain it. Never know what they about
Hey,
it.
you want to
They
know?
know it was the internet.
Hey, you want to know what started buyer agents in North Carolina? A lawsuit that was just like this in 1994 that created agency for buying and agency for selling and both sides. And that's where this started, 1994. And now look, we're back again talking about agency. Yeah. MOG. Oh, dear. Yeah. Are the oil field in Texas that said everybody that bought a house in this neighborhood didn't own the oil underneath? We do. We're the builder. You bought the house, not the oil. So that's great work. It's going to be okay. If you need anything, if you have questions, if you don't understand, by all means, seek counsel. I love y'all. Have a good one.
Thank you, Jay.